Hey, this is Charles Onyat from IGN, and I'm playing Torchlight 2, a new action RPG from Runic that's out on the 20th. I am level, 51 right now? Yeah, I'm level 51. I still haven't beaten the game yet. I'm about 28 hours in or something, and I'm in the Act 2 main city here. So this is just a peaceful town. This guardian of air creature here is not going to kill me. There are no threats here. But, so this game is an action RPG. It is loot-driven, so it is like Diablo. Very fitting considering that some of the folks at Runic Games worked on the original Diablo games at Blizzard North and, continued through with Torchlight 1 and then Torchlight 2, and Torchlight 2 is bigger than Torchlight 1. It has 4 classes, and it also has multiplayer support. I'm just in here by myself, but you can play this as a multiplayer game as well. And it's actually more like classic Diablo than Diablo 3, and there are a couple reasons for that, which I can get to. Well, I can just touch on it right here. I mean, so the big one is just that you can't just mix and match skills whenever you want, like in Diablo 2. When you level up, and here, let me pull up my character menu. When you level up, you pick manually where you want your stats to go. So you pick, I want to boost dexterity, you get 5 points per level, and you put it in each of these categories. And then for skills, you get 1 skill point for a level up, and then you can put it into one of 3 sort of branches. And these branches aren't actually chained together, so they will become available after you hit a certain level. And by that, I mean you don't have to put points into all of the earlier ones to get the later ones to unlock, even once you've met the level requirement. It's just once you've met the level requirement, the skill will become available and you can start powering it up. And then you can dump multiple skill points into each category. And so what that does is it powers up the individual skill, and it also boosts the tiers. So once you put up 5 points in Blade Pact here, for instance, you get a longer pact. So you get special bonuses for bumping it up from tier to tier. So it's not just straightforward progression. There's also this secondary mechanic here that makes it more powerful as well. And then in each branch, you also get passive skills that are listed down here that are always enabled. The actives you can put on your skill bars, you can see I have set up down here. But yeah, the passives, and they seem to be really useful. From what I've played so far, I'm playing an Outlander. There seems to be a lot of potential to have different builds within the same character class, and because those decisions are semi-permanent, it's not like you can just switch around to do something else once you've decided you don't want to do what you've set up with your skill build. You are locked into that build. So you are that type of character. I think it gives it more of a powerful sense of identity. And sometimes it's like, oh, well, I'd like to try out some different skills. And you can do that actually as you level up. It's just kind of expensive. So if you do put points into, I don't know, let's say I level up and I want to learn Repulsion Hex here. I can put a point in there and then come back to this skill respec NPC in town, and then this will list the last 3 skill points that I've invested, and you can remove them for a significant gold. That's not a small gold cost in terms of what I've come across so far. That is a big gold cost. So it is expensive. It means that every decision you make in this skill tree is important because it's basically, your permanent character moving that point forward. Of course, you could go level up another character, but in terms of this character, it really defines kind of how you behave as a class in a permanent fashion. So that is why I say, in that respect, this is more like classic Diablo than Diablo 3. Diablo 3 just lets you respec your character sort of whenever you want to. So in town, you can do a couple things. Any Diablo fan will be very familiar with what goes on here. You've got a couple general goods vendors you can just buy basic stuff for. This is potion-based gameplay, another reason it's like Diablo. So you come in and you basically have to buy all of these potions for mana and for health, and then when you're out in the field, your health will go down, and you do have to use potions to stay alive. I think my character has a heal, I haven't learned it yet, but you'll be using potions very frequently to keep your health up, to keep your mana up. And there's a little bit of a cooldown when you use a potion, so it's not as if you can just sit there and spam potions. So you do have to kind of wait for that potion to regen your health and then finish before you can use another one. So a couple other things you can do in town. Oh, and there's a gambling vendor as well. So if you remember from Diablo, you had the gambling vendor who would sell you items that you don't know what the stats are until they're in your inventory. That's here as well. So let's see, we have an enchanter here who can take any items, and let's see, the items I have equipped here, they all come with basic statistics, depending on rarity level. You have the unique items, which are the much rarer items. Then these are kind of the second tier of rarity, and then the first tier of rarity are these green ones that are much more common, and then you've got basic ones that aren't enchanted at all. So the green ones aren't that special, then blue, then the unique items, and then apparently there's a class of item beyond that that's incredibly rare that I have not found yet in my playtime. So you have enchantments already on the items, and you can actually, well, I'll talk about the socketing in a second, but if you want a different enchantment on there, you can just drop an item in here into the enchanter, pay money, and a random enchantment will be thrown on to an item. You can also find enchanters out in the world who will provide more specific enchantments, like some will only enchant with luck or something like that. And then you can do that multiple times. So if I were to put this in here, enchant it once, and then this enchanter can do maybe twice on an item, so then I can put 2 enchants on an item, and it becomes more expensive the second time, but that way if you find an item you really like, you can power it up by dumping some money into it. You also have gem combination possibilities here, so you can combine gem types that you find in the field into other ones, upgrade potions that you find in the field, and a couple other I guess recipes here that I haven't really learned yet. So I don't know everything you can do here, but you can combine gems much like in Diablo. So again, very, very similar. And then when you actually, and here I'll talk about the gems, you find a lot of gems when you play through the game. They all have varying effects that differ depending on whether you place them in armor or in weapons. So like for instance, on this bow that I have a blood ember shard socketed in it, and that effect is 38 health stolen on hit. So that's nice because then I gain health back. So if I want to recover that shard and put it in maybe something better I find, I come over to this guy, I drop the bow into here, which I'm not going to do because I don't want to destroy the bow. I just found the bow, I'm very happy with it. But I'll drop it in here, and then the bow will be destroyed in order to recover the gem if I use this guy. If I use this guy will destroy the socketed gem and recover the item, if I remember it correctly. So once you do make a decision to socket something, in order to recover something, you are going to make it. You are going to have to make a sacrifice. It's not just, a free. Oh, I'll just get that back. You do have to make. You do have to think about it. You do have to consider it more carefully. So that is basically what you can do in town, and then you can also travel between acts. You've got your stashes, a shared stash between characters, and a regular stash. I have a whole bunch of uniques that I've found that I'm just kind of storing here, just in case I level up other characters and they want to use them, or I play with somebody else who can use them, because there is some class-restricted stuff and also stuff with stats that I don't really care about. And here are all the gems that I've found, and yeah, once you find 3, you can combine them together and it makes a different gem. So now I'm going to head out into the field and show off a little bit of my class build. So the Outlander is interesting because he is a ranged character, so he is basically meant to be used with guns, with bows, pistols, that kind of thing. You can dual wield pistols or have longbows. So I assumed when I went in that he was just going to be mostly about, dealing range damage and wouldn't be terribly exciting, but man, I was not correct in assuming that. There are options here for like rapid fire to boost damage, a couple more, these passives like increase effectiveness with various weapon types. But there are also, in addition to his kind of range skills, he's very heavy on poison damage, so he has a lot of poison damage boosting abilities. And he also has Diablo 2 Necromancer-like summons, so he can summon, the way I've spec'd him, I basically have him where this Bane Breath attack, which I can use believe that's on 2. Yeah, that attack. If I kill an enemy with that attack, then that enemy will be turned into a Shadowling and will run around and fight for me. And I also have this powered up with Shadowling ammo, which basically at this point gives me a 48% chance to spawn a Shadow Bat every time. Yeah. So every time I kill an enemy, then that will spawn a bat, which is pretty cool. That's a nice ability. So basically, as I run around, I have a chance of a very high chance of just spawning a whole bunch of enemies. So I'll just do that right now. There, I just killed them. You can see a little Shadowling came out, and this is a much lower level zone, BTW, which is why I'm just kind of running everything over. At this point, prior to release, I'm not actually allowed to show higher level areas. But here you can see I'm just spawning friendly enemies as I kill things. And then I should get, oh, that's actually a summon from my pet. Actually, let me talk about the pet real quick, because that is kind of a major factor in the game. The pet mechanic is really nice because with the pet, which you can equip with things, by the way, there are a couple equip slots here. The pet has an inventory, so if my inventory fills up, I can just transfer items over to the pet. The pet can use spells, so I actually equip, you find these scrolls that you can basically equip on yourself to have available as skills, or you can give them to your pet. And I gave my pet all summons. So my pet just basically sits there and summons zombies and skeletons all the time into a fight, which is really helpful. You know, it's less micromanagement for me of skills, and it's always an aid to have more people shooting at things. And then once my inventory does fill up, if I don't necessarily want to town portal back to a settlement to sell stuff off, I can send the pet back to do that. It'll return after a little while, and I can also tell the pet to buy things. So I can have the pet buy scrolls, dynamite for fishing, you know, whatever I happen to need. If I need more health potions, mana potions, whatever, the pet will go fetch that stuff and then come back and bring it to me. And then I basically just don't have to return to town in that case. So I can also turn my pet into various creatures by fishing. There's a fishing minigame, pretty simplistic, but you do get bonuses through it. You can actually get items by fishing as well. But I don't really want to turn my pet into a moldy. How about a crab? Vampiric spider. That sounds pretty good. I'm gonna go crab. Oops, I just transferred it. That was not the correct button. Right click. There we go. My pet is now a crab. So you can power up your pet by the different fish that you find. And yeah, I mean, the game recommends you do that very often. It's not something I've been doing probably as much as I should have. There you can see I got a bat from killing someone. So I've got my bat following me around, and that'll keep happening, so I can get more bats. Now I have 2 bats. So that's what's cool about this build on this guy, is I'm able to just stay at range and basically kill things, and then by killing more things, I spawn more things that kill for me. So eventually I'm running around with this huge collection of shadow creatures that are just, you know, destroying everything around me, which distracts the enemy and gives me more of a chance to stay behind and basically just shoot. And of course, I recover health with this bow every time I hit someone, so that's obviously helpful for me. But that's not the entirety of the build. I have a couple of things that enhance my ability to stay at range. I have a vault ability, so this will jump me back to a safe spot in case, and I can just keep doing this, so as long as I have enough mana. So that'll jump me out of the way of something, and the way I have it set up, I also have a bramble wall, which will block enemies, and I have it skilled up to a point where it will actually deal damage to foes when it's raised. So I'll just show this off. So if I'm getting attacked by a whole bunch of enemies, I can just jump back, toss down a bramble wall, and then the enemies won't be able to pass through there, and I can just fire through it like this. I've also found that I can actually recover health by shooting the bramble wall, because it takes damage. So that's an easier way to recover health. But then I can stay back here from relative safety, and then I have this blade pact that I use that just affects all of the enemies in that area, and basically that will reduce their attack speed, movement speed, and their armor, so I'm able to more effectively kill them. Here are some chests. You can see loot popping out of it. This is definitely a loot-driven game. Not a lot of story in the game, although there is some story. Oh, so this is just, you know, random things that happen in the environment. This NPC is happy that I saved him or her. I can't tell. and so I just get a little reward there. So you get these nice little things out in the world that make it, that break up the pace of adventuring and make it a little bit more goal-driven, so you're not just always killing, you know, a huge field of enemies. You know, this is very much a game that knows what it is. It's pretty straightforward with just providing dungeon spaces and lots of enemies to kill. And then it actually has some pretty cool boss fights, because one of the irritating things about like Diablo 2 and I mean a lot of action RPGs in general is just the boss design tends to be kind of cheap, especially when you're on a potion mechanic. It's just like the bosses will just do crazy amounts of damage because they assume you're spamming potions all the time. In this game, it actually manages to strike a really good balance between boss challenge and entertainment value. So it's not just, it doesn't feel like a grind, it actually feels kind of challenging, and I'm on the third highest of 4 difficulty settings right now, so I haven't tried it on the highest difficulty setting. But I really do like the boss design so far. I don't think I'll be able to get to one in particular right now. Let's see, what else do I have on my skill? Oh, right, so from a distance I have this poison attack that basically, here, I'll just shoot it. It shoots out this fan of like poison daggers that will do damage over time to opponents. So if I combine that with Vault back, drop Bramble Wall, poison daggers, everyone's doing damage over time, and then maybe from behind the wall, you know, from behind the wall, I'm sitting here and using this, the Bane Breath ability that spawns more shadowing minions. So I can combine all those together in an effective way to really keep me protected, to ensure I'm still spawning more minions on the field, and to do lots of damage over time with the poison. And then there are ways to enhance this. So by just taking 1 rank of Poison Burst here, I inflict 50% of my weapon DPS as poison damage, also 12% chance on kill to explode, which is a nice little bonus there. But the poison damage is important because of this Master of the Elements passive, and what this does is it boosts all my elemental damage types. So I have a plus 44% damage for my poison damage cause, which just works very well with converting some of my weapon DPS to poison damage, and also the fact that I have this poison wave attack that I use very frequently. That helps me out in terms of dealing damage, and then I've also buffed up my my minions here with Death Ritual, which makes my Shadowling allies last longer and deal more damage. And then really the centerpiece, which I just learned recently of this whole minion-focused build for the Outlander, is the Shadowling Brute, and he will call forth well, it'll summon in this huge shadow guy, and he will just wreck everything. But the nice thing about this is that you also get a big damage boost to all damage types while he's active, I guess. So he will not only do quite a bit of damage and seems fairly survivable, but will also let you deal a lot more damage. And as you do level him up through the tiers, he will gain a leap attack, and he'll gain increased attack rate. So the bonuses for this particular one across the different tiers seem pretty interesting. So now I'm just gonna, now that I've explained kind of everything that I'm doing here, see if I can kind of get into a fight and amass a little bit of a Shadowling army. I'll see if I can bring a bunch of enemies together to get into a crazy fight, because this game does definitely, if you're not careful about where you're going, you can wind up in a really heavily populated area all of a sudden with a bunch of enemies around you. Unfortunately, my character is so over-leveled for this content that it's not going to take much, but you can see how quickly I can amass kind of a Shadowling army here, and my summons from my pet are running around as well as my pet. There's my crab pet running around, and sometimes you'll see these smaller enemy types running around that basically don't take a lot of damage, and they're perfect for me because I can just walk up. I just got a bunch of gems there. I can just walk up and use my Bane Breath attack, and then that's like 3 or 4 minions that pop out of there, which gives me quite a bit more to work with. There's the Shadowling Brute, so he will come in and he will just dominate everything. I don't know how effective he becomes in like playthrough 2 once I beat the game and sort of cycle my character over again and start going through the content at a higher level. I don't know if he'll remain effective, but certainly for now in the first playthrough, he is a devastating force. You can see he's just basically running through everything. He only lasts for a little bit though, but I mean, there you go. He's already available to resummon, so it's not that much of a big deal to bring him back into a fight and vault back and use my pact here. But I really like this skill setup just because there are clearly a lot of ways that skills work in tandem, that they sort of play off one another. So if you really do study the skill tree, which you do need to do in this game, just because of those decisions are permanent, like I was talking about. Oh my God, what just happened? So here's an example of just random things happening that I'm really not quite sure what's going on here, but this is just, you know, a thing going on out in the world so that it makes it a little bit more exciting to explore. Oh, here you go. So it just, you know, a random like champion style monster spawned here, and then I get some better loot. Lots of gold popping up here. That was actually extremely profitable, and it looks like a lot of health potions. Yep. These are all lower level items though, so I'm not like super excited about them. But yeah, a lot of cool ways to build my character through this path. And I mean, alternatively, I could have followed basically this glaive path, where he's throwing these various types of glaives out that can do a couple of different things for crowd control and damage over time, and then also focus more on hexes, which, like this vortex hex, for instance, draws foes toward it and has a chance to stun them, so another way to distract enemies while you're staying at a distance. And I haven't learned Venomous Hail, which looks like a rainstorm of poison. So there are definitely there are ways to build the Outlander so he's not at all focused on summons, and I haven't played around with that much, so I don't know how effective that is, but I do like the summon build. So when the game is out and people are leveling different characters, you know, you'll hear somebody who is more minion focused with an Outlander and somebody who is not at all minion focused with an Outlander, and they will, you know, ideally, if the game is if it holds up to that, they will both be totally viable builds. Of course, that may be true in the lower level content, and then who knows how that scales to when you're, you know, way up near the level cap or something like that. But for the moment, it seems very fun, and I'm going to keep playing around in the game and try out some of the other classes, because there's more of a pure magic user. There's like the up-close berserker melee guy, and an engineer class, all of which have some cool skills. So see if I can see how effective that guy's going to be in there. There's Death Pact, which I can use to slow enemies, but it's not especially necessary for this portion. But it does become much more challenging later on in the game. It's pretty easy at the outset, but yeah, it looks like I'm just rescuing these guys. So as soon as I kill everyone here, they'll be happy. And yeah, so I just get another quest reward here. But yeah, for everybody who played Diablo 3 and maybe was a big Diablo fan and wasn't especially happy with all of the decisions that Blizzard made there, mostly de-emphasizing potion use, making it so that skill decisions weren't really permanent and you can essentially do whatever you want within the confines of the class, you know, I think you'll find a lot to like in this game. It's certainly more classically styled action RPG, for sure. And it's as I was saying, it's a pretty straightforward action RPG as well. You know, not a huge emphasis on story or world building or anything like that. Just basically providing some cool environments, cool dungeons to kill a lot of stuff in and find loot. And I do, you know, the loot system isn't terribly complex or anything, but it seems to work pretty well. You know, loot drops when you get something really cool are still exciting, and because there is, oops, those aren't the correct menus, because there are still a lot of statistics associated with them. You know, you still get that excitement about really finding an item that's tuned directly to your character build, like this, for instance, which is a class-specific Outlander piece of armor. I was just sort of cycling through other ones and found this. It was like, okay, this is going to happen, and I imagine I'll have this equipped for quite some time. And also, you know, if you only know Diablo 3, then you know, there's no auction house here. There's no online requirement. You can play offline if you want. You don't need to deal with any of the login stuff or anything like that. You can play this purely as an offline single-player game if you'd like, or join up with some friends for co-op. It's out on the 20th, and yeah, from what I've played so far, this is really good. This is a really well-made action role-playing game with a lot of cool skill decisions. and monster types, enemy behaviors, and environments to go through. Although I don't know why Act 2 in action RPGs always has to be a desert. I don't understand why that's the case, but it is the case here. Act 2 is a desert, so that happened. But yeah, if you're looking for another action RPG in this style, I would definitely recommend keeping an eye on Torchlight 2, because it's only $20, it's on Steam, and there's a lot of content in it.